Louis, Missouri sits quiet along the Mississippi River, its old brick streets carrying more history than most cities twice its size. But tucked into the Benton Park neighborhood at 3322 Dimonil Place stands a mansion that locals still refuse to walk past after dark, the Lemp Mansion. Once the crown jewel of one of America's wealthiest beer brewing dynasties, it is now considered one of the most haunted buildings in the entire United States. Behind its Italianate facade lies a story of ambition, madness, and a curse that seemed to follow one family through 4 generations, claiming lives with a pattern too consistent to be coincidence. The story begins in 1838, when a German immigrant named Johann Adam Lemp arrived in St. Louis with nothing but a recipe. He had discovered a way to brew lager beer, a style that used bottom fermenting yeast and required cold storage, something almost nobody in America was doing at the time. Lemp found the perfect solution beneath his own property, a network of natural limestone caves that stretched for miles beneath South St. Louis, maintaining a constant cool temperature year-round. He began storing his beer in these caves, and the Lemp Brewery was born. Within decades, it became the largest brewery in the United States, and the Lemp family became one of the richest and most powerful dynasties in the country. In 1876, William Lemp Sr., Johann's son, purchased the mansion on Dimonil Place to serve as both a family residence and the brewery's administrative offices. He spared no expense, filling the home with hand-carved wood paneling or ornate plaster ceilings and a hidden network of passageways connecting to the very caves his father had once used to brew beer. It seemed, for a moment, as though the Lemp family could do no wrong. But wealth, as it so often does in these stories, was not enough to hold back what was coming. The first tragedy struck in 1901. William Lemp Sr.'s eldest son and heir apparent, Frederick Lemp, was a healthy young man being groomed to take over the family business. Then, without clear warning, his health began to fail. Doctors could not agree on a diagnosis. Some said it was heart failure. Others whispered about something stranger, something that resisted every treatment. Frederick died at just 28 years old, and something inside William Lemp Sr. seemed to die with him. Those close to the family said he was never the same man again. He grew withdrawn, spending long hours alone in his office at the mansion, and his once sharp business instincts began to dull. Then in 1904, his closest friend, a fellow brewing magnate, died suddenly as well. Grief piled upon grief, and William Sr. began to unravel. On the morning of February 13th, 1906, a servant phoned William Lemp in his bedroom at the mansion. He had shot himself in the head with a revolver. There was no note, no clear explanation, just a wealthy, powerful man who seemingly had everything, choosing to end his own life in the house he had built into a palace. The family tried to move forward. William Lemp Jr. took over the brewery and the mansion, determined to restore the family name, but the mansion itself seemed unwilling to let the past rest. Staff began reporting strange occurrences almost immediately. Footsteps on empty staircases, doors that opened and closed on their own. The distinct feeling of being watched in rooms where no one else stood. Some said they could hear William Sr. still pacing in his old office, the floorboards creaking under weight that left no one visible. Then came Zeta Lemp, William Sr.'s daughter, whose life ended almost as abruptly. But it was the next tragedy that truly cemented the mansion's reputation as cursed. Elsa Lemp Wright, William Sr.'s youngest daughter and considered the wealthiest heiress in St. Louis at the time, appeared to have everything a person could want. She married well, lived comfortably, and seemed to have escaped whatever darkness haunted the rest of her family. But in March of 1920, at just 36 years old, she was found dead in her home from a gunshot wound ruled a suicide, just 3 years after her father's death in that same manner. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Whispers began to spread through St. Louis society that the Lemps were cursed, that something had attached itself to the family, something that would not let go until it had taken them all. William Lemp Jr., now running both the brewery and carrying the full weight of his family's growing legend, tried to hold everything together, but Prohibition arrived in 1920, gutting the brewing industry that had made the Lemp fortune. The Lemp Brewery, once the largest in the nation, was forced to close its doors. William Jr. sold off the buildings and equipment at a fraction of their worth, watching his father's and grandfather's life work dismantled piece by piece. He continued living in the mansion, but those who visited him in his final years described a man haunted, both by circumstance and by something less explainable. He told visitors he sometimes heard his father's footsteps in the house, late at night. He spoke of a presence in the attic that made the air feel thick and cold, even in summer. On May 10, 1943, William Lemp Jr. was found dead in the mansion. He had shot himself, in the same manner as his father, in nearly the same part of the house. 3 members of one family dead by their own hand, in the same building over a span of just 37 years. By this point, the mansion had earned a nickname among locals that would stick for the rest of the century: the Lemp Mansion of Suicides. The surviving family members could not bear to live there any longer. The house was sold, and for decades it passed through different hands, used as a boarding house and later left largely vacant. Visitors and workers during this period reported the same disturbances that staff had described decades earlier. Cold spots that appeared without explanation. The sound of a piano playing in empty rooms when no piano remained in the house. Children's laughter echoing from the upper floors, though the family who had once lived there had no young children during those years. Only whispered rumours of a hidden, ill relative kept from public view generations earlier. A rumour locals connected to a shadowy figure some claimed to see in an upstairs window, a small twisted shape they came to call the Monkey Face Boy. In 1970, the Lemp Mansion changed hands one final time, purchased by the Pointer family, who saw potential where others saw only tragedy. They began the long process of restoring the mansion, eventually converting it into a restaurant and inn, opening its doors to the public for the first time in generations. But renovation did not banish whatever remained inside. If anything, it seemed to wake it. Workers doing restoration reported tools vanishing from locked rooms only to reappear in places they had already searched. Painters described feeling hands press against their backs in empty hallways. Some walked off the job entirely, refusing to return no matter what they were offered. Once the restaurant opened, staff and guests began compiling their own list of encounters. Servers reported glasses lifting off shelves and shattering on the floor without anyone nearby. Guests staying overnight described waking to the distinct sensation of someone sitting on the edge of their bed, though the room was empty when they turned to look. In the room, believed to have been William Lemp Sr.'s bedroom, the site of the first suicide, several guests have reported waking in the night to find a man in old-fashioned clothing standing at the foot of their bed, watching them in silence before fading into the wall. The caves beneath the mansion, the very caves that made the Lemp fortune possible, are perhaps the most unsettling part of the property. Visitors who have taken tours through the tunnels describe an overwhelming sense of dread the moment they step underground, a feeling that intensifies the deeper they go. Some have reported hearing what sounds like a child crying, echoing from passages that lead nowhere, sealed off decades ago. Others report seeing a small pale figure duck around a corner ahead of them in the tunnels only to find nothing there when they follow. Paranormal investigators who have studied the property extensively point to one consistent theory they believe widows and blamed for the strange sightings in the caves may connect to that same rumoured relative kept hidden away by the family generations ago. A presence they believe was never given peace in life and has never found it in death, wandering the tunnels searching for something it can no longer name. Today, the Lemp Mansion operates as a restaurant, inn, and one of the most sought-after paranormal investigation sites in the country. Mystery Dinner Theatre shows now play out in the same rooms where a family once slowly came undone, and guests dine just steps from the room where William Lemp Sr. ended his life. The mansion has been featured on countless television programs dedicated to the paranormal, and investigators using EVP recorders claim to have captured disembodied voices responding directly to questions asked aloud in empty rooms, voices that identify themselves by name, voices that beg in some recordings to be left alone. Skeptics point out that the story of the Lemp family, 4 suicides across 3 generations, all involving firearms, all within the same short stretch of decades, can be explained without anything supernatural at all. Depression, they note, can run in families, and grief compounds grief in ways that do not require a curse. William Sr. lost his son and his closest friend within a few short years. William Jr. watched his father die, then his sister, then the collapse of everything his family had built. It is not difficult to trace a very human, very tragic thread through the pattern no ghosts required. And yet, those who work within the mansion's walls today, who close up long after the last guests have gone home, describe a building that never quite feels empty. They speak of lights flickering in patterns too deliberate to be electrical faults. They speak of the sound of a woman's dress rustling down an unoccupied staircase. They speak of a presence in William Sr.'s old office that makes grown men refuse to enter alone after dark. Whether the Lemp Mansion is haunted by genuine spirits, or simply weighted down by more than a century of grief soaked into its walls, one thing is agreed upon by nearly everyone who has spent time within it. The house remembers, and some say so does whatever still walks its halls, waiting, perhaps for one more member of the family to come home.